How are you, Rajdeep? বাবারে।
চুপ করো।
So is my screen is visible to you, right? So what is antigen? Anusha told a foreign particle. Anything? Anything much you want to tell me?
Any foreign particle
Which?
Ma'am, antigen is the foreign particle that is caused on the immune hazards.
Immune hazard. So how are you?
Ma'am, I am fine now.
Okay.
Yesterday I don't join. I can't able to join because my health is not good.
Okay, no issues. I have sent the okay, fine. I have sent the recordings, so just go through it and see if there is any problem. Bibhash already told me his problem, and I have just cleared it out. So if you have any problem, just let me know, okay?
Okay,
And
ma'am.
take care. So, whatever Anusha told, whatever Rajdeep told, both were correct. So, antigen is a substance that can trigger an immune response, resulting in the production of an antibody as a part of the body's defense against infection and diseases. So, there are many antigens which may be self, and antigens may be foreign. Those are not naturally found in the body. So this is the concept of antigen, which is basically triggering the immune response. Now I will introduce another term today, which is known as immunogen. So what do you think? What is immunogen?
It is an agent capable of inducing humoral and cell-mediated immune responses.
Exactly. This is basically a stimulus that produces a humoral or cell-mediated immunity or immune response in our body. In case of antigen, they are substances that bind specifically to an antibody or a T cell receptor. So if you consider textbooks, you will see that it is written there that antigen is a substance that binds to a specific antibody. You can see I have already shown you in this figure. It can go and bind to an antibody specifically, or it is a molecule or molecular fragment that can be bound by a major histocompatibility complex. You have already seen, and presented to a T cell receptor. Now there are two different features of this antigen. What are they? So if you consider both antigen and immunogen also mediated immune responses, and so as antigen. So antigens, if you consider two different features, so antigens must have antigenicity and immunogenicity. So these are generally used to describe each antigen. Now immunogenicity is the ability to induce a humoral or cell mediated immune response, and antigenicity is the ability to specifically combine with the final products of the immune response, that is secreted antibodies or surface receptors on the T cells. Although all molecules that are immunogenic are also antigenic, right? So this is true. All molecules that are immunogenic in nature, they are all antigenic, but the reverse is not true. All antigens are not immunogens. So if we carefully contemplate these two characteristics that are used to define an antigen, we can say that immunogenicity and antigenicity, they are tightly related and they are always duplicated. Antibodies are produced as the result of immune induction, right? And antigens cannot trigger an immune response unless they bind with their corresponding antibodies or receptors. The above two concepts, they simply and repeatedly describe a single generality of all antigens. Yet, these alone does not allow us to completely characterize various antigens. However, there are different antigens produced. They can produce different immune responses as they encounter their antibodies or receptors. And using this feature, antigens can be more accurately defined by the difference in the type of immune response they generally induce. Now, if we are talking about the antigen, we are talking about this antigen goes and bind to this particular antibody molecules. So here a question comes, or a term comes, which is known as epitope. So what do you think, or what do you know about this epitope?
Ma'am, epitope is the particular portion of the antibody that an antigen binds to it, where the antigen binds to the antibody.
Are you sure?
Yes, ma'am.
Anusha and Rajdeep, do you think Vibhash is right?
Ma'am, I am Rajdeep.
Okay, Rajdeep. Vibhash and Anusha, is he correct?
Ma'am, there is some background noise. I didn't hear it properly.
Actually, Rajdeep told that epitope is a special region which is found in antibody by which it can bind to the antigen. So, is he correct? The function he has told was right.
Yes, ma'am.
But the position, what he told, was not right. Epitope is
Ma'am, it is antigen.
exactly.
Yes.
This is not
And
in
vice
the
versa.
antibody, right?
Yes.
So this is an antigen. This is also known as an antigenic determinant. It's a part of an antigen, and this epitope is recognized by the antibody, B cell receptors or T cell receptors. And generally an antigen has several or many different epitopes and reacts with many different antibodies also. And generally it's seen that sequence wise or structure wise epitope is approximately 5 or 6 amino acids in length. So don't forget, epitope always present in the antigen. This is basically the antigen. Okay, so the immunogenicity of an antigen, that can be described using 3 different aspects. What are they? First is the immunological defense. What is that? Immunological defense is the ability to defend the immune system, which is the ability to repel an exogenous antigen and to fight against infection. This is the first aspect of this immunogenicity. Second is the immunological homeostasis, the ability to keep the immune system stable, which is the stability of the body to recognize and eliminate diseased tissues, inflammations and senescent cells. So this is immunological stability. And next is the immunological surveillance. This is basically the ability to kill and remove abnormally mutated cells so as to monitor and inhibit the growth of malignancies in the body. So by these 3 features, immunological defense, homeostasis and surveillance, we can define immunogenicity, and it actually helps to strengthen the immune system of our body. Now I have told that all immunogens are antigens, but all antigens may not be the immunogens, right? In case of, there are some small molecules which is known as haptens, which can bind to antibodies or B cell receptors, but they cannot initiate an immune response. So they are immunogen, so they are antigens, but they are not immunogen, so because they cannot initiate the immune response. So here the question comes, what are haptens? See, this is the hapten molecules. The small molecules are haptens, but they alone cannot initiate the immunological response. So hapten is a molecule that reacts with specific antibody, but it's not immunogenic by itself. It can be made immunogenic by conjugation to suitable carrier, and you can see this large molecule is the suitable carrier molecule. Many drugs are there which can act as haptens, like penicillins. A hapten is essentially an incomplete antigen. These small molecules can elicit an immune response only when they are attached to a large carrier molecule, such as it can be a protein. The carrier typically doesn't elicit an immune response by itself. So hapten and carrier molecule, if they are alone, they have not the ability to induce an immune response, but when they act together, they can initiate a good amount of immune response. So this is the hapten molecules. Another term that is very common in these immunological responses and all, that is adjuvant. So do you know what is adjuvant? Any idea? Well, so an adjuvant is a
Ma'am,
it
adjuvant is
enhances the immune response.
enhance the immune response.
good, very good, both of you. So this is basically a pharmacological or immunological agent which modifies the effect of other agent, enhances the immune response, right? So directly immunizing most antigens will lead to a poor immune response and rapid removal of the antigen from the body. So here comes the action of adjuvants. Now to prevent that problem, the antigen is first combined with an adjuvant, which is a material that helps to stimulate and enhance the immune response against the antigen through the creation of a depot effect. Now adjuvants can act in various ways in presenting an antigen to the immune system. They can act as a depot for the antigen, presenting the antigen over a longer period of time. Thus, they can maximize the immune response before the body clears the antigen out. So, what are different functions, immunobiological functions these adjuvant perform? First is improved immunogenicity. They improve the immunogenicity of highly purified or recombinant antigens, which is generally proteins or peptides. They improve their immunogenicity. Next, improved immune response. They increase the innate immune response to antigens by interacting with pattern recognition receptor molecules, PRRs, pattern recognition receptors, on or within accessory cells. Next, they provide protection. They provide physical protection to antigens, which grants the antigen a prolonged delivery. Next, it helps in, it's not visible, right, increased capacity of local reaction. So it increased the capacity to cause local reactions at the injection site. Say whatever Rajdeep did, the vaccination, during vaccination, including greater release of danger signals by chemokine releasing cells such as helper T cells and mast cells. And last but not the least, it helps in antigen translocation. It helps in the translocations of antigens to the lymph nodes where they can be recognized by T cells. It was seen, or it was found, that Creative Diagnostic, they has invented novel immunization. It's known as magic adjuvants, which it is specifically designed for rapid production of high titers antibodies in mice. In case of mice, it's known as magic mouse adjuvant. In case of humans, it's known as magic human adjuvant. So this adjuvant is the most efficient adjuvant for all type of immunogens which is tested in case of mouse till now. So this is the term adjuvant actually means. So basically we now know that immunogen is a stimulus that produces a humoral or cell mediated immune response, whereas antigens are any substance that binds specifically to an antibody or a T cell receptors. Now I am introducing another term to you which is known as allergen. So what do you think? What is an allergen?
The foreign particle that causes allergy.
Exactly. So in simple word, we can say that allergen is a substance that can cause an allergic reaction, right? So what happens in some people, the immune system recognizes allergens as foreign or dangerous, and as a result the immune system reacts by making a type of antibody. So what is the type of antibody which is related to allergy?
Ma'am, I am not sure, but IgE.
Good. So IgE to defend against the allergen, and this reaction leads to different allergic symptoms, right? So these are the very common allergen which are found. So allergenicity, now that comes this is allergen. Now that anyone is joining?
Yes, I am disconnected.
Oh, okay. So you know now what is allergen. Now what is allergenicity? Allergenicity refers to the ability of an antigen to induce an abnormal immune response. So basically allergen is also an antigen only. So it's a special kind of antigen which has the ability to induce an abnormal immune response, which is an overreaction and different from a normal immune response, in that it does not result in a protective or prophylaxis effect, but instead cause physiological function disorder or tissue damage. So we can simplify what is the relationship between this antigenicity, immunogenicity, allergenicity. So we can tell antigenicity can be simplified as a summation of immunogenicity and allergenicity, right? Because I have told that all immunogens are antigens, all allergens are antigens. So obviously antigenicity means immunogenicity plus allergenicity. Now there were two British immunologists, Coombs and Gale. They have classified all of these allergic reactions into 4 different types, type 1 to 4. So type 1, type 2 and type 3 allergic reactions, they are called immediate types of allergic reaction because they occur within 24 hours of exposure to the particular allergen. But type 4 reactions typically occur after 24 hours of exposure, and they are called delayed allergic reaction. So what are the different 4 types of allergic reaction? First is the type 1, which is known as the anaphylactic reaction. Type 1 reactions are mediated by proteins called IgE antibodies produced by the immune system. Now these are produced in response to the allergens such as pollen, animal dander or dust mites, even certain food can also cause this kind of allergy. This causes the release of histamine and other chemicals, causing inflammation and swelling. The examples may include allergic rhinitis, allergic dermatitis, food allergies, allergic conjunctivitis, that is the eye inflammation. So this anaphylaxis is the most severe form and is a medical emergency because it can lead to a sudden life-threatening respiratory failure. People with anaphylaxis have extreme difficulty in breathing, swelling, low blood pressure, bluish skin and shock. This is basically one of the example of this anaphylactic reaction and what this anaphylaxis can cause. Next is the type.
Ma'am, one question.
Yes.
Ma'am, the hypersensitivity and the allergenicity is the same thing.
Yes, kind of, because there are different hypersensitive reactions also. Allergenicity cause one kind of hypersensitive response. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So now type 2 reactions. Type 2 is the cytotoxic reaction. This type of allergic reaction is mediated by the proteins, which is IgG and IgM antibodies. The antibodies involved in type 2 reactions damage cells by activating a component of immunity which is known as the complement system. I guess you know about complement system. Type 2 allergic reactions can be seen in certain conditions like autoimmune hemolytic anemia, immune thrombocytopenia and autoimmune neutropenia. You can see this cytotoxic reaction. Next is the type 3, which is the immunocomplex reaction. These are also mediated by proteins like IgM and IgG. They act in the same way. These antibodies react with the allergen to form immunocomplexes, that is the antigen antibody complexes, and these complexes are responsible for the reaction. Type 2 allergenic reactions is seen in Arthur's reaction, serum sickness, etc. And type 4 includes, and now I have told 1, 2 and 3, which is the immediate allergenic reaction. I have written type 3 again, right? It should be type 4. So in case of type 4, which is the cell mediated reaction, this is the delayed response. This is delayed or hypersensitivity or allergic reactions as they occur after 24 hours. Now these reactions typically takes around 42 to 70 hours or longer to appear after contact with the allergen. Now many long-term infectious diseases such as say fungal infections, tuberculosis, they show cell-mediated reactions. Certain skin sensitivity reactions, especially to metals, may also belong to this category. This is type 4 cell-mediated reactions. So these are different 4 kinds of allergic reaction that occurs. Now a simple question comes: how does a person become allergic? So allergens can be inhaled, ingested or entered through the skin. Now common allergic reactions such as hay fever, in case of type 1 also, they are linked to an antibody produced by the body which is known as immunoglobulin E or IgE. Now each IgE antibody can be very much specific, reacting against certain pollens or other allergens, or in other words we can say that a person can be allergic to one type of pollen but not another. When a susceptible person is exposed to an allergen, the body starts producing a large quantity of similar IgE antibodies. The next exposure to the same allergen may result in an allergic reaction. Symptoms of an allergic reactions will vary depending on the type and the amount of allergen encountered and the manner in which the body immune system reacts to the allergen. Obviously, it varies from person to person. Now, allergies can affect anyone regardless of age, gender, race or anything, because it's a human problem. Generally, allergies are most common in children. However, a first time occurrence can happen at any age or occur after many years of remission. Hormones, stress, smoke, perfume, environmental irritants, they can also play a role in the development or severity of the allergen. So this is a very common question, how does a person becomes allergic? But if a person gets allergy, then the question comes, how to measure the allergenicity? I have told that allergenicity, like immunogenicity, also exhibits antigen specificity. Now, due to different antigen antibody specificities, each antigen has different levels of antigenicity and immunogenicity, and each individual has a different immune system. Thus, antigens can be allergens in individuals of different ages and different immune status. So in general, the most potent allergens are proteins, with polysaccharides ranking second. So most of them are protein, obviously antigens are proteins in nature, but polysaccharides may also be the second one. So what happens? This allergy usually characterized by the T helper cell 2, Th2 cell response, which are described by the increase in the level of interleukins 4, which is designated as IL-4, and other Th2 type cytokines that may include IL-5, IL-9, IL-13, IL-21, etc. So the activation and the expansion of these CD4 plus Th2 cells, induction of the plasma cell secreting IgE, and activation of eosinophil mast cells and basophils, all of these can produce several types of Th2 type cytokines, and hence the level and the duration of this Th2 response define allergenicity. So you have to measure the level and the duration of this Th2, and you will be able to score the or rank the level of the allergenicity. The researchers can also ascertain a protein's identity by scrutinizing its history of medical use or by searching the literature to see whether any adverse reactions have been reported, or by doing experiments to investigate the allergenicity and immunogenicity of the candidate protein to be encountered by the human body. There are literatures, and by reviewing them, it can also provide us the bioinformatics data that can be used to evaluate immunogenicity and allergenicity. So there are some free available software, free available servers there, by which we can detect whether a particular molecule is allergenic or not. So basically we can say that allergy is a form of hypersensitivity. It's Rajdeep's question. So allergy is a form of hypersensitivity to normally a protein kinds of substance, such as it may not be a protein, it may be dust, or it may be pollen. Allergy can come from drugs and foods also. So allergens are basically small antigens that commonly provoke an IgE antibody response. Such antigens normally enter the body at very low doses by diffusion across mucosal surface, triggering a Th2 response. That is why we were measuring the level and the duration of the Th2 to check or to measure the allergenicity. The allergen specific Th2 cells drive allergen specific B cells to produce more and more IgE, which binds to the high affinity surface receptor present on the mast cells, basophils, and activated eosinophils. Now on activation, these cells release stored mediators, which is in turn give rise to inflammation and tissue damage. In case of human, or IgE actually increase the production of histamines, right? So it results in tissue damage, causing a variety of symptoms. Now inhaled allergens induce rhinitis, conjunctivitis, I have already told you. Food allergen may cause respiratory problems. Inhaled allergens seldom affect the gut. So relatively few proteins acts as allergen. Allergen proteins contain both T cell epitopes capable of inducing Th2 type response and B cell epitopes, which is used for the IgE binding. So allergens are also often proteins or glycoproteins with enzymatic activity. They are resistant to proteolysis in the gut and exceptionally heat stable and are thought to be ovoid in shape. Now, recently it is found that allergen proteins have no or few bacterial homologs, in contrast to randomly selected control non-antigen proteins. Now, although I have told that there is no consensus allergen structure, the Food and Agricultural Organization (FAO), Food and Agricultural Organization, and World Health Organization (WHO), they have produced a guideline for evaluating the potential allergenicity of novel proteins. According to their guidelines, a query protein is potentially allergenic if it has either an identity of 6 to 8 contiguous amino acids or greater than 35% sequence similarity over a window of 80 amino acids when compared with known allergens. So currently there are bioinformatic tools available, and there are two different bioinformatics based allergen prediction softwares. They use two different methodologies. First approach, they follows that FAO WHO guidelines, and they searched for sequence similarity, because I have told they need to have a 6 to 8 contiguous amino acids or more than 35% sequence similarity. So the first type of bioinformatics based allergen prediction software, they searches for the similarity, sequence similarity. The structural database of allergenic proteins, AllerMatch, AllerTool, all of them contain extensive database of known allergen proteins and use them in sequence searches of query proteins. Despite of the high sensitivity, true positive, false negative, so all of these methods, they are known to produce many false positives and have low precision or positive predictive values. Additionally, the discovery of novel antigens will be restricted by their lack of similarity to known allergens, obviously, because when you are giving a novel antigen to the prediction software, and if you are going for the similarity search, sequence similarity search, that may not be similar with all of that existing allergens in that particular database. So there is the second approach, which is based on identifying conserved allergenicity related linear motifs. Scientists defined 52 allergen motifs by comparing allergens to non-allergens. Lee et al. Identified allergenic motifs by clustering known allergens, followed by wavelet analysis and hidden Markov model. We have also used this hidden Markov model in case of NetCTL. I have also mentioned there. So this HMM model, HMM profile preparation of each identified motif. Another group developed a detection method which used an automated selection of allergen representative peptides protocol. Now there are another software which is known as ALGPRED, ALGPRED, ALGPRED. It's a server for allergenic protein prediction which combines 4 methods of motif search: the support vector machines, MEME or MUST, IgE epitopes, and allergen representative peptides. Both approaches assume that allergenicity is a linearly coded property. So we can say obviously this allergenicity, like antigenicity or immunogenicity, is a property encoded with a sequence in a suitable, subtle and possibly concealed manner, and thus alignment based approaches may not be able to detect the properties such as allergenicity in an unambiguous manner. So here a group of scientists recently described an alignment independent method based on the auto and cross covariance transformation of protein sequences into uniform equal length vectors. This auto and cross covariance is a protein sequence analysis method developed by Wold and colleagues which has been applied to quantitative structure activity relationship studies of peptides with different length and for protein classification. Now this method was used to identify immunoprotective proteins from various microbial organisms, including say bacteria, viruses, etc. And these autocross covariance transformation accounts for neighbor effects, that is the lack of independence between different sequence position. Now this autocross covariance preprocessing was applied to the sets of known allergen with different origins and routes of exposure, developing alignment independent methods models for allergen recognition based on the main chemical properties of amino acid sequences. And by using this software or this not software this method, this transformation method, auto and cross covariance transformation method, they have developed a free web based server to predict whether a molecule is allergenic or not depending on their sequences. So there were 5 machine learning methods by which they have developed this software. They have discriminant analysis by partial least square, logistic regressions, decision tree, naive Bayes, and k nearest neighbors. So that were applied. This is basically a very hardcore machine learning techniques. So this is they use to develop the software. Now I am sending you a link in the chat box. Just open the software. So you got the link, just click on it. So now see, this is basically the version 1. We are using AlertTop to predict the allergenicity. This is the link of AlertTop that I have sent you. There is another one which is AlertTop version 2. You can also open that. This is a bit modified, this is a bit updated version, so you can use either AlertTop 1 or AlertTop version 2. For here I am just showing you AlertTop version 2. Now they have told you to enter a protein sequence as a plain text one. Just keep in mind, as a plain text, not as a FASTA format. So I have a sequence here. I have just found a sequence from NCBI. So I am copying this sequence. This is basically a sequence of allergens written over here. Still we will check whether it's a true allergen or not. Now we are pasting the sequence here. So this is the simple plain text, not a FASTA format, and just submit the sequence. See, you will get a result in terms of it's a probable allergen, and also you will get a nearest protein of your allergen. Obviously it's a probable allergen defined as allergen, so nearest protein which is also defined as allergen. So if you just open this, this is basically the UniProt accession number UniProt is a link database that will give you the idea of the nearest related protein, which is from CRF gene. The name of the protein is probably glycosidase CRF1, and this is the database UniProt, which is basically help to tell you all the details of that particular protein. So it's, if you want to know all the details of this of the nearest protein of your query allergen, so from here you will get the idea. So what you will get the function. So there are active sites, what are the active sites, what is the position of the active sites, and they will describe the type of the active site, whether it's a nucleophile, protein donor, etc. Next is the subcellular local names and taxonomy. So you will get from where they are getting this. This is the taxonomical classification. Here you will get the organism name, the taxonomic identifier and all. Next is you will get the subcellular localization. See, it is showing the subcellular localization. The presence of the protein is in cell wall and the cell membrane. So it's also shown here in this figure. And if you want to check, you can also get the papers where they have actually, this is basically you will get the paper where they have shown that this is the localization. This is a place where this protein localize. Next, after this subcellular localization, you will get the pathology. This is the pathology and biotic. This is the allergome and all. Next, if there is any post-transcriptional modification, PTM for post-transcriptional modification, if there is any post-transcriptional modification, see, they are found in the cell wall and cell membrane, basically in the extracellular region also. So obviously they are secreted out. So that, see, they have a signal peptide sequence from the position of 1 to 19. So you can get the signal peptide sequence. Next, they have a chain, which is the probable glycosidase domain. This is the domain, and the end position that contains a propeptidase domain. So propeptidase domain basically required because propeptide is required because this is a glycosidase. So this is not active when they are immature, right? So they contains a propeptide region at this C terminal, and when they want to function, or when they are matured, this propeptide region actually degrades down. They may be it may be a automatic one, so they can actually remove or this propeptide region, and this glycosidase domain gets activated. Now if there is amino acid modification, is any glycosylation, lipidation, you can also check for that. Next is, if there any interaction, you can go for string database. It will give you the idea about different nodes, different molecules with which it can interact, and if its structure is resolved, you will get the structure. So this is the extracrystallographic structure. So there are PDB links from where you can get the structures, all the structural details you can get. So this is the structure of the molecule. Next, the secondary structure and all, 3D structure. Now the family and domain, you will get the idea about that. And this is the phylogenomic database, family and domain database. So the particular domains or the particular phylogenetic positions, depending on that, you can go and search for different, these are different databases, interpro, pfam, subfam, prosites. So they will differentially give you idea or enlighten you in different aspects of that particular protein, and at the end you will get the sequence from where you can download the FASTA format. You can go for BLAST and check if there any if there any similar protein is present or not. You can check the sequences. Now this is the experimental info. There are the experiments that were performed using this protein, so you will get the idea about that. And there are different sequence databases also, DDBJ, EMBL, GenBank, etc. You can go and check for the sequences by the submission, the journals where these sequences, these proteins were submitted and all. and this is the, if there is any similar proteins is showing, see 90% similarity, you can search for the proteins which is showing 50% similarity, and there are cross references also. Okay, so this is basically the details of the protein. So you have entered a particular sequence which you think that I knew that my sequence that I have submitted here is a allergen, but when you are working with a novel protein, you do not know whether your protein is an allergen or not, right? So just paste the sequence. This software, depending on the structure, depending on the function, they will of the amino acids, they will tell you whether it could be a probable allergen or not, right? And if it's an allergen, it will, this software, it will also give you the UniProt ID of its nearest protein, that will help you to get a vast idea of about this nearest protein, its structure, its sequence, its submission, its function, and also you can go and check the similar protein which is also submitted as an allergen. So you can go and check for the similar protein and get an idea about what your protein can cause, how your protein can function, how it can be, or the what may be the structure of your novel allergen that you have received. So you can do many things with that. So is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so just go through this bioinformatics tool, which is,
Ma'am, one question.
yes,
Ma'am, basically, what is the need of knowing the nearest protein sequence in this case?